Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for
Talking
greatness.
shit, Dave.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Damian Jackson, me and the AI. Let's get right into it. On today's episode, we're going to talk about, I don't want to get into a rant, but it might turn into a rant. My issue with coaches, youth coaches to be exact, and not necessarily youth in the sense of, 10th and down. When I say youth, I mean high school and down, because anytime you want to bring up what's a kid and what's not a kid, a lot of times the line is drawn at 18 for a lot of situations. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all the stuff, all the different situation stuff, but for general purposes speaking, when I say youth coaches, I'm talking about those in high school as well. And a lot in which I speak on will be from my own personal experience, being a high school coach, girls varsity basketball, and my kids as they continue to play youth sports or get more into high school sports. My daughter being in the 10th grade and my son being in the 8th grade. My biggest issue that I have with coaches, and as I say all this, let me preface this as well and give more context to the fact that I'm speaking from a coach's perspective. A coach's perspective. Yes, I am a parent as well, but for the majority of this, as I speak, will be from the coach's perspective. So really a criticism amongst my former colleagues or peers, as you would say. The thing I have with coaches is that coaches have their egos. Not egos in the sense of, hey, I can develop any player that I want to, or I can develop any player that comes across my team that's at my school, but coaches' egos in the sense of they want to win. And they are focused on winning. Not the process of winning, not the result of hard work, patience, time, energy, effort, winning be that. They just want to win, and they want to win now. And I don't know if it's a generational thing in the sense of millennials, my generation, or if it's just because of the culture in which America thrives in this, fast-paced, high results, quick results, fast results. I'm not too sure. So what I have noticed as far as high school coaches go, and coaches younger as well, 8th grade, 7th, middle school, elementary, things like that, is these unnecessary, unrealistic expectations of kids. Sometimes we think these kids, right, should be better than what they are. Sometimes we want them to be more serious. I don't really like that phrase, especially when it comes to high school. We're always like, oh, you got to get serious. You got to be serious about the sport. And it's like, these kids are not even serious in their own households. They're not serious about the schoolwork. They're not serious about their families, their parents, their relationships, their friendships. They're not serious about a lot of things. And over time, they will, because the line between them being kids and young adults is thin. A lot of times it's just maturity and just, a choice. But for the most part, they're still kids and they're still, especially in high school, young adults. But coaches tend to exclude the whole maturation process. Coaches tend to think that this kid will be good because I can see that they're going to be good based on their height, based on the height of their parents, based on their parents' success, as opposed to the intangibles. Does this kid work out on their own? Is this kid self-motivated? Does this kid concern themselves about their grades, their education? Does this kid have ideas or dreams of, or, personal goals further into the future? I've seen a lot of coaches just forget that they play a role in these kids and young adults' lives. That they are essentially mentoring. They are another perspective of what an adult is in these kids' lives. We know some kids come from single parent households. We know some kids come from, 2-parent households. And all different backgrounds, all different ethnic groups, all different religions, things like that. So you have to account for all those different things. But as you're coaching young adults, kids, there's core principles in which we all can agree upon. Honesty, integrity, commitment, loyalty, to a degree, but loyalty. Things like that. And what I'm seeing a lot of, well, it's not that. I'm not seeing emphasis focusing on fundamentals, building a foundation, a structure, a routine and discipline. All I'm seeing is, oh, you're good. Oh, yeah. What can you do for me? I'm seeing a lot of ego and selfishness in coaches. And it's crazy when we think about it being done to 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. But once again, in high school, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, now's your opportunity. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that. And it's like, it's still not. Because you still have time. You have time. It's about developing the whole person. And I'm seeing a lot of coaches just completely ignore that. Now, once again, my perspective of coaching as well is basketball. But let's be honest. This is a generalization that is probably acceptable in this case. Whether the game is softball, baseball, hockey, soccer, football, wrestling, we all seem to know these type of coaches that we can tell don't really care about the kids. Which blows my mind because at the same time, it's like, well, why are you there? And I get it. When I was coaching and I went through my interview with the athletic director at the school I was coaching at, which is the same school my kids go to. And what I realized, which I didn't know then, like I wasn't trying to be a coach. I just knew my kids were going to be active at the school, play some type of sports. And my daughter was going to be at the school first. And at the school they're at, when you're in 7th and 8th grade, you're considered high school for them. So I knew she was going to be playing some type of sports at some point. I figured I'll be up at the school often. So I'm like, well, since I'll already be up here, I might as well just get a job here. And I'm a retired disabled veteran. Actually, at that time, I didn't have my full retirement. I was working on it though, but because I knew eventually I would get it. I know what's wrong with me. It takes a while for the VA to say yes, but I knew that, I was just going to be retired and take care of my kids and do my own thing at home and stuff and whatnot. But I knew that I was going to be up at a school a lot, so I wanted to be around. I basically was just volunteering because in the state of Florida, you as a coach, you're not getting paid nothing unless you go to a private school. And I get why the state of Florida does that because really, so in the state of Florida, it's considered a supplemental income. And that makes sense because really you should be at the school teaching and just doing that, coaching as well. Because you want to make sure that the people that are coaching care about the fucking kids first. That has to be a priority. You coaching because you want to have a coaching career. Yes, that you can have that be a priority too, but the kids have to come first. Because when you put the kids first, the result of your coaching career, the positives and the things that you want to help build your career will happen. They're tied together. But when you don't give a fuck about the kids, guess what? That means your coaching career is going to go straight down. It will not be successful the way you want it to be. So during the interview I had with the athletic director, I remember he told me this. And I didn't get it then because I was just like, it blew my mind. He was like, I get coaches in here that say they don't care about winning. He's like, I don't care about winning and stuff. He was a big believer in sports teaching kids. I was much older because, that's an older statement. He was talking about how, sports helps kids, with their confidence and structure and discipline and motivating and stuff. And I came out of the Air Force 12 years active duty. So I have a lot of that training, and that's just my life, regardless of the Air Force anyways. But obviously, me being in the military, that is my life, and that's a structure in which I, provide in my household with me and my kids. And so me and the athletic director, we bonded on that, and he really hired me off of that. He even said, he's like, I don't know much about basketball, but he was saying that the head coach at the time, would kind of give a sign off on that as far as me knowing basketball stuff. But it's like, I'm not hiring because of that, because, it's because you care about, we spent the whole entire interview talking about raising kids, developing kids, mentoring kids, being there, the structure, discipline, the routine of children, young adults. That's what it was about. That's why I got hired. And he said, I have a lot of coaches that come here and say they don't care about winning. Because I said, I don't care about winning. And he said, yeah, I was like, yes, I'm competitive, but winning is not my focus, because I know it doesn't have to be my focus. I already know if you focus on the things that you need to focus, winning will be the result. That's it. But when you're building confidence and you're motivating yourself and discipline, routine, and structure, all those things, you will win. And that competitiveness will come. So he said, I get coaches that come here and they talk about that stuff. They don't care about winning, but once the season starts, things change. And that was almost his disclaimer to me, like, hey, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. He didn't micromanage, and he said that, and I'm not going to be over your shoulder. I let all the coaches do their own thing and stuff, but I knew they were paying attention. And I wanted my kids at a school that did not emphasize sports. I don't like that, because academics got to come first, because all these kids, majority, 99.99% of them, are not going to make it to the pros. The reality is 99% of them don't want to make it to the pros. Now, 100% of them will take it if someone offers it to them. I won't say 100%. 90% of them will take it if it's offered to them. But probably not even 90%, to be honest with you. Probably half of them will take it. A lot of kids don't want to continue to play sports beyond high school or college. They don't want to play in college. They don't want to play at a professional environment and stuff. And that's good. That's a good thing. That's healthy. That's healthy. But as coaches, we don't need to determine how we're going to coach a kid based on their overall goals in the sports. What is the longevity of their sports career? Because it's about developing kids, young adults. That's what it's about. And it seems like what I'm witnessing is coaches have just completely lost that. Parents have lost that as well, but I won't leave that for this episode. I'll put that in a whole nother episode, because I think parents and coaches, adults in general, are the worst things, are the fucking issue in all youth sports. Argue with the wall. I guarantee you that's exactly what it is. Because it's not the kids. Because they're kids, right? So I noticed that during that coaching interview, I was like, huh. And I really thought about it. And I coached for 2 years. My health issues really are the main reason why I stopped coaching. But I was also annoyed with just youth sports in general, in high school sports, how a lot of things just unprofessional, how other coaches were unprofessional. And no one in particular, but just things that I just saw here and there. And obviously, like I said, I came out of the Air Force, active duty, so I know civilian life, and there was a part of time where I was still adjusting. I've been out for like 3 or 4 years, right? About 5 years, I think, around that time. But still, it was like my first time working again and stuff. And it was kind of an adjustment for me still, how my mind works and being in the military and things like that. And that's not the same thing for everybody. But there's a degree of professionalism. I don't give a fuck what your job is. I don't care if you're working at McDonald's. I don't care if you're fucking selling shoes in Foot Locker. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. There's a degree of professionalism you should have. And I was looking at a lot of the coaches, the referees, the school administrators, things like that. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Are we caring about these kids? Are we trying to set good examples for these children? Are we caring about, how we could affect these kids' lives? So you have coaches sometimes that they just almost don't care. My son got cut from his JV basketball team, or cut from the JV tryouts, whatever. He played on the middle school team, and my son and daughter goes to the same school, the school in which I coached at. And it's not disrespect, or it is a criticism. It's a professional criticism, but it's not nothing disrespectful, nothing, negative and complete distaste as I say this. But I can tell when a coach doesn't know how to coach. Because I'm not talking about the X's and O's of the game. That's a whole nother subject. I'm talking about the development of children, kids, young adults. That's where it starts at. So once again, I said I didn't want my kids at a school in which sports was emphasized, because it seems to me when sports are emphasized, it's just a bunch of shady shit. And people trying to pick the next LeBron James, Steph Curry, LaMelo Ball, whoever the fuck they think is going to make it, which for the most part is never correct anyways, because that's a whole nother skill set and a career within itself of scouting, noticing potential, finding your diamond in the rough. So my son tried for the team, and it seemed like he was going to make it even before then, because he went to all the preseason workouts. I think he missed one day, and that's only because we weren't sure whether or not they had it. But he went to all the preseason workouts, and we all know how high school basketball works. If you don't go to the workouts in the off season, the preseason stuff, you basically don't have a chance, because they have already picked the fucking team. But these coaches were new. So I'm like, well, maybe they are going to give everyone a legitimate shot. Mind you, my son was on the middle school team the year before. So essentially, he should just go ahead and move up. But the only reason we had a middle school team was because a coach, it was a parent that, really kind of threw himself out there to coach the middle school team, and that's why we had a middle school team. So I appreciate that parent for that, but I didn't like the way that parent coached either, because it was clear that the emphasis was on his son. We all have come across the coaches that have their kids on the team. I coached when my daughter was on the JV team, and she played some of the varsity for us. But the way I treated my daughter and the way I treated the rest of the girls, at times the girls thought I didn't like my own daughter, because I always criticized her. But I criticized them all. They were probably thinking I would give her a little bit more special treatment, because even so, it's a little natural, But I would criticize her the exact same way I would criticize the rest of them. I would get on to her the same way I get on to the rest of them. Which is why I had and still have a great relationship with my former players. I'll get more into my coaching experience as we go on and stuff, but when my son tried for the team, that first day of trials, he was like, he got in the car. I was like, you all right? He's like, yeah. He's like, I missed some shots, but it's like, I just don't feel confident. I was like, and I tried to talk him out. I was like, you should feel confident. I was like, this is a coach that you actually know, because you played with him before. You played with him in one of these churches leagues before and won him a championship. I'm like, I still got text messages of that coach saying how good you are and how much he appreciated you and stuff, and he couldn't have won that championship without you and your leadership skills and all those things. I'm like, you're way better now than you were then, which was like a year plus ago or whatever stuff, when he played for him at that church league. I was like, don't worry about it. You got this. And he felt good after that. And then he practiced, the next day of trial, he played good and stuff. He said all those things. And we all felt good. But then the day came where my son got in the car, and I was like, so you on the team? He's like, no. I was like, what? He's like, I didn't make it. I was like, the fuck you mean you didn't make it? And then my son broke out in tears and a heartbreak I'd never fucking seen in him or a lot of people. His heart broke like his wife cheated on him. I'll be honest with you. His heart broke like his fucking kid died. Like, his heart broke. And that was the first time I realized, oh shit, my son loves this fucking game of basketball. there's no doubt in my mind after seeing that, I was like, he really loves it. I was like, oh my God. And I got mad. I wanted to confront the coach. I'm not going to lie to you, because it was the way my son said it. He's like, Dad, I didn't make team. He's like, and then he said, he told me I wasn't tall enough. I was like, the fuck? I was like, none of them are that tall. Like, what are you talking about? And it's like, he's younger than the rest of them anyways, that was on his middle school team. So I was like, you're gonna grow. At the time, he was like 5'2". So it was October 2024. He's like 5'5" now. The funny thing is, people look at me, I'm like 5'7", but I'm shorter than his mom. His mom is 5'8", and her dad is tall. And you know, height is stupid anyways, because this is the problem with coaching. Why are you concerned about height on a JV team? You're concerned about height because, we got to have height to win. Why are you not concerned about development? And that is an issue. A lot of coaches don't know how to coach because coaching is developing. And that's what I was mad about, because I knew he's going to grow. And my biggest issue was not that happened to my son, but I was like, God, what happens next year when you're taller than someone else that's on the team? Now, do they get kicked off the team because they're not tall enough? I was like, it made me really mad, because it'll be okay. And my son said too, it'll be okay if you told me I wasn't good enough. If you told me, I need to do this, I need to do that, but it wasn't a skill issue. It wasn't a physical issue. As far as stamina, as far as strength. Because me and my son, we worked out all last season. He was 5'2", but he could squat 185. He could bench press 85 pounds at that time. Now he's at 100. He could squat 185. He quarter squat I think 225. Actually, I done lost track because every time I just kept adding weight, and I stopped paying attention, and the weight just kept going up, because I was just like, hey, I guess we gotta keep going. But I'm thinking about all the work I done seen this motherfucker do. The sprinting, the run, running long distance. He did some of track the year before and stuff, to increase his stamina and stuff. And he wasn't on the track team. He just kept going to the practices, and he was running 3 miles and all that stuff. He ended up doing a long distance shit with them because they have a sprinter coach, and us working out 5 days a week and everything, and him going all the workouts and all that stuff. And it's like, it's the intangibles. And as a coach of kids and youth, that's what it's about. You want the kids that are going to put in the work and put in the effort, because they are motivated. When they talk about, I want a kid that's serious. Well, the kid that is serious is the one that's going to do the shit on their own. That's going to have their own self-motivation. That's going to be accountable for themselves. But in order to have that as a coach, or in order to know that as a coach, you have to get to know the players. And a lot of times these coaches are just picking kids here and there that they think will help them win, as opposed to, who are they? Like, we're failing these kids. We're completely failing them. Because how can they go from kids to being young adults to being mature adults when they're not even noticing or appreciating the journey and noticing that it's a process? They think, I just got to do this right now. And no, it's a process. So coaches don't really emphasize development. Come to find out, a few months later and stuff, I was at the game between the school, and then my little brother was playing from the other school or whatever. And then at that game, the coach came up and told my son that, are you still working out, blah, blah. He's like, okay, you'll be on the team next year. I was like, wait, he told you those exact words? He's like, yeah. My mom sat there and heard him too. I was like, huh. I was like, that's as much as an apology you're going to get from a coach. He basically just said, I fucked up. But I'm glad it happened to my son, because he got the experience to know that a lot of coaches cannot be trusted. A lot of people cannot be trusted, period. That people have to earn your trust. And they do something to lose your trust, you hold them accountable to it. You forgive, but you never forget. But I'm glad my son did get cut, because now I know, and now he knows this is something that he's going to pursue. In regards of what anyone says, it's in him, because it's his choice. He got cut. We were back in the gym on Monday. It was a Thursday. Friday was Halloween. I think he didn't do nothing that weekend. And then we were back in the gym on Monday. Back working out. Kept going. And he kept getting better. So now he's in open gym and stuff and going to the off-season workouts and everything. And he's saying that, he's as good, if not better than some of the other kids that are on the team. And now he's seeing his confidence has shot up because he's like, wait, he's starting to notice that he's putting in the work himself. That right there is something that as coaches, we need to look at and find that within that kid and help guide them and help them along the way. I want to say push because they're already pushing themselves. Now you're their support system. You're not taking the wheel. You're in the passenger seat. Reading out the map. I guess the GPS, whatever the fuck you want to say now. But my issue with the coaches is they don't focus or emphasize development over time. It's let's win right now. Let's do this right now. Hey, I need these players here. I've been seeing a lot of recruitment going on in high school, which I think is complete fucking bullshit, to be honest with you. I get when you don't have, like, when I was coaching, we were thinking about, trying to get other girls to our school, and we really can't because our school is a charter school, so you're going to go through that through open enrollment. Or if you want to do homeschooling, you can come that way and stuff. You can come try for the team. But that's some shady shit right there, which I don't like either. Because my biggest thing is, if you think that you need these other players to help you win, how can you call yourself a coach? Oh, I can't win with these players. You just got to coach harder. You just got to find what makes them motivated and help motivate them. Because as a coach of the youth, of young adults, of adults, you have to motivate. That Phil Jackson, that psychological, that Zen shit, whatever you want to call it, you have to find ways to motivate your athletes. Which means you have to talk to them. You have to get to know them. You have to have a conversation with them. You don't need to know all their personal details, but you need to have an idea of who they are at their core. And see, as I'm talking about coaching, not once am I really emphasize knowledge of the respective sport or whatever game that you're playing. Because realistically, you just got to know the basics. When we're talking about high school and below, you just got to know the basics. That's it. That's all you got to do. Focus on the basics. Focus on the fundamentals. Emphasize that. And if the kid wants to do more advanced things, well, you'll take, whether you know it or not, research it. Take the time to figure out. Bring other coaches in that can help you on those things. But instead of that, we bring in players. You see a lot of favoritism goes on too, because when you bring in one player from another school, what do you think that does to the kids that are already on the team? That's going to make them not want to be there. It's going to make them not want to play. It's going to make them be like, well, damn, I've been working my ass off, and then now you bring in another player from another school, or not even a school, homeschool and stuff, and now they have the starting spot or whatever, and they didn't do anything to prove to any fucking body that they should have it. What do you think that does to that child? What do you think that does to that young adult? It fucks their head up. Put them into, mild depression. Because they done thought, hey, if I work hard, if I do this, I do that, I'm going to get the things I want. But then they have a reality check that sometimes it doesn't even matter if you're good. Doesn't matter if you work hard, and that's what my son learned. Didn't matter if he worked hard. Didn't matter if he was good. The coach just found a reason to cut him. Me personally, I think he found a reason to cut him to keep his sons on the team because he has 2 boys that are on the team. That's my own personal opinion. But like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I am criticizing a fellow peer because I walked away from coaching because I wanted to. Like I said, because of my health issues and because of the stress, other things, stuff like that. But if I had continued coaching, then, well, I would be coaching the girls' varsity team or the boys' varsity team. Plain and simple. Because the school that they're all at, which I was coaching at, my kids are at, in which I was coaching at, like I said, the athletic director emphasis was on development of young adults, not the wins and losses. As a coach, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing it for? If you want to have a coaching career, that's fine. But you still have to, there's still a way, I won't say a right way, there's still a way in which you want to go about it in which you don't exploit the fucking children around them. Because a lot of this is child exploitation. When we talk about travel sports, it's child exploitation. All this money being circulated and stuff, kids don't get none of it, but they're the entertainment. They're the emphasis. They are the main attraction, but they don't get none of the real benefits other than exposure to college coaches, and you get a scholarship. The money you put towards all that travel, basketball, travel, whatever sport, you could have saved up for college right there. Hell, you could have invested that shit, flipped it, and got enough money to pay for a 4-year degree. Just what I'm seeing in coaches, I just don't like. Now, it could just be in the area in which I'm in, but obviously, I'm highly active on social media. I'm on TikTok, and I see what the younger generation, that Gen Z, Gen Alpha generation, are talking about. So it's the same thing. We all have these experiences with bad coaches, and they say, well, not all coaches are bad. Well, of course we know not all coaches are bad. But we have to question, what is a good coach? And if you start to say a coach that helps you win, that's not a good coach. I used to tell my players, like, hey, we as coaches, we're going to sit and we're going to say things stuff, but the reality is we're not in the game. I'd be like, hey, guard her. You got to speed over her. You got to do this. You got to do that. The reality is I don't actually fucking know how fast she is. I just tell my players, I'm like, man, I'll be honest with you. I don't really know how fast the girl out there is. So if I say why you can't keep up with her, she's probably way faster than I realize. I'm not out there running with her. I'm just seeing it, and that's my perception of it. And I'm seeing it at a perspective that's not even the same perspective. I remember telling one of the girls before, as a point guard, I was like, when you bring the ball to the floor, I was like, you didn't see her open or whatever? She'd be like, oh, she's not open. I'm just using that example. It's something that kind of loosely happened. I'm like, oh, she's not open. I was like, no, she was open. She's like, oh, no, she wasn't open. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? As a coach, I have to learn how to trust my players to be like, hey, coach, that wasn't there. And I'm like, you know what? The reality is I'm looking at this from a 2D perspective. I'm not necessarily seeing it in 3D in that sense. I'm not on the floor looking at it the way you're looking at it. I'm on the sideline. So my perspective is different. So what I think is open is only open from my perspective. But I'm also not passing the fucking ball. I'm not making the plays. I'm not out there moving around being physical. So what you see is what you see. I just have to let it go. I want you the ball. You were open. Coach, I wasn't really open. I was like, yeah, you had plenty of space. No, that girl can jump high. She would probably block my shot. I'm like, no, you're not. You got to do it with confidence. And then I catch myself like, you know what? Is this a thing of confidence? Or maybe you are confident and respecting your opponent. You have to remove the ego as you're coaching. And a lot of coaches, especially as you're coaching, the 18 and under, you think because you're a fucking adult that you know better. Not always. The funny thing is, being wise and knowing better is knowing that you won't always know the answer. You won't always have an answer. Hey, coach, what should we do? I'm like, to be honest with you, not much we can do. Go out there and continue to play hard and stuff. Focus on the fundamentals. Limit our turnovers. Get easy baskets. Get underneath the bucket. Box out. Because as you watch any basketball game, a lot of times the difference between winning and losing is, did you box out? Did you go after that ball on the floor? Were you hustling? Did you slide your feet on defense? Or were you just being lazy fucking reaching and shit? Were you taking bad shots? where y'all pass the ball around and, make sure you get a quality look at the basket. These are basic fundamental things. That's why we're seeing the European players and the overseas players coming into the NBA. And you got a player like Jokic who looks like he's just out there, but yeah, he's dominating. Because it's just basic shit. It's just this basic shit. America is so emphasized on let me dribble, step back, hezzy, tween. I'm like, the fact that we start calling these stupid moves names is fucking hilarious to me. But like hezzy, tween, step back, shot. Oh yeah, that was so good. You didn't have to do all that shit. In fact, nobody was guarding you, really. The person guarding just stood there. You could have just shot the ball. But that's coaching. That's noticing that, hey, focus on the basics and the fundamentals. I'm glad that you can do all these other advanced movements, but you got to bring it all back in. And I'm not seeing that in youth sports, particularly in youth basketball. I'm seeing just everyone being sucked up into the highlight reel culture, the social media, the viral clicks and shit, the exposure, this and that. I'm not seeing passion, discipline, structure, routine, teamwork, none of that shit. Fundamentals, basics, I'm not seeing none of that. So I don't like coaches. Now, does that mean I don't like all coaches? No. I had a good coach that I used to go to growing up. I used to go to his college camp near my city or in my city and stuff, and that was a real good coach. And I can't remember his name. I always tell myself I remember his name and stuff. I think I wrote it down somewhere. But that was the only real coach I ever had was a college coach. And that's how I noticed the difference in the game and the difference of teaching. What was emphasized? No matter what grade we were, I think I went from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, if I'm not mistaken. But it was always the same thing. We're going to focus on defense. We're going to do the miking drill where you're underneath the basket and you practice your left hand leg, your right hand leg. You do the reverse. Left. It was just basic drills. Basic stuff. I don't even know what kids practice on anymore. With these travel teams, I don't even know what the fuck they practice. Everybody's trying to run a play. How can y'all run plays when kids don't know how to use a backboard? Kids don't know how to get back on defense. Kids don't know how to box out. The kids ain't even in shape. They don't know how to do push-ups. They can't do sit-ups. They can't run. But we're going to practice twice a week and then play 5 games on the weekend or 6 games on the weekend. And then we're going to get a trophy and say we're the champions of this tournament. And then we call that coaching because you won a tournament here and whatnot. Or you call it coaching because you won some high school games and stuff. My first year coaching, we won a district title. And during that time, I didn't think nothing of it because, my mindset was like, well, I just got here. These girls already put in the work. So, I don't feel like I had a huge impact, but I did have an impact because I took my ego so much out of it. I was just like, even when the trophy was everything and all the stuff was going on, so I stayed out to the side. I was like, oh, no, to me, it's their moment. And the head coach that's been there and stuff for years, where to me, that was their moment. But I did play a role in it because the way I communicated to the girls, the way I talked to them and stuff, helping the coach out. Obviously, I'm an assistant coach, so I'm helping out in the middle of the game for, techniques, strategies, tactics, things that needed to happen and stuff, subbing in and out. Like, we're actually coaching. And the coaches I coach with, the best coaches I know outside of myself and stuff. I mean, I know there's other ones, but as far as my own personal experience, those are the best ones I know because we had to work with what we had. Which is how it should be when we're talking about fucking high school sports. Not to bring in someone out of nowhere just so we can win, because if you focus on just one person, doesn't mean you're going to win. But the coaching that I'm seeing and stuff is just, the development is just not there. Because it takes time to develop. It takes patience to develop. And I don't think a lot of coaches that are coaching in high school sports and below, I think they're just trying to stack their resume. I think they're trying to, say that, oh, I won here, or I won there, I coached here and we won. The funny thing is, part of your coaching resume is, as well, is developing kids. See who do you put in college if they make it that far, if they want to make it that far. Because remember, a lot of these kids playing, they're not serious. They're just out there because it's something for them to do. And we got to remember that sports is just something for kids to do. Those that are going to be serious, they will do it on their own. You don't have to do anything extra. Then, maybe a kid wants to get some extra shots up. So they say, hey, coach, can you open a gym for us or so we can get some extra shots in? And the coach said, you know what? I got time on this day. So if you want to be out here, I'll open the gym for you up. I'll open the gym up for you and come in and get some shots. You do it for that one kid. Just one. And what happens? That kid goes and performs well in the game, and those shots that kid put up helps you win the game. Then the teammates, the other kids start questioning, hey, when did you start getting better at shooting? Like, you weren't doing this much shooting in practice. When you did? Oh, I asked coach will open a gym to let me come in and shoot. And coach said, yeah. So that's what I've been doing. Oh, I want to do that. And the next person said, oh, well, I don't want to work on shooting, but I noticed that I've been struggling with my dribbling. Can I come in early for practice as well? Yeah. That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. Hey, coach, I feel like I need to work on my stamina. Hey, coach, can we, the girl used to ask, hey, coach, can we lift weights? I was like, what? I was like, yeah. They're like, no, coach, we want to lift weights. We want to get in the weight room. And these are girls, right? And they're like, no, we want to get in the weight room. We'll get stronger. All right, we'll get in the weight room. Get a weight program going. I know what to do. I had to do it in the military. Part of my career was fitness management. I know how to personal train. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to get in. Hey, we get in the weight room. I'm like, hey, we get in this weight room. No playing around. No BSing. We get in there. This is what y'all want to do. That's fine. I'm all for it. And I'll be here for it. But we're going to get it. And they would. They're going to cry about it. They're going to complain about it. But that's kids, man. That's kids. I love coaching so much when I was doing it. I loved it so much. And I gave a lot of myself to them. And I'm a single parent, disabled veteran. I have my own health issues. But I gave everything I got because they were worth it. They wanted it. And I done, every year since after I graduated, after I stopped coaching, going on 2-3 years now, I have been at their graduations. Some of them I'm still in contact with. Obviously, my daughter was on the team, so she's friends with them and stuff and whatnot. And just to see that my mindset, and I told them while I was coaching, I was like, you think I'm teaching you about basketball. I'm not teaching about basketball. I'm teaching about life. I'm just using basketball as an instrument. And that is what coaching is supposed to be. You're just a fucking teacher. When we're talking about high school and below, you're a teacher. You can argue that you're a teacher regardless in college and in the pros when it comes to coaching. You're a teacher. And teacher does not necessarily mean that you have more experience or more knowledge. It's your ability to help people. To recognize, hey, we need to work on these things. And to recognize that, hey, we will win. We all want to win. The goal is to win. The result of what we put in is winning. But we got to recognize the process. We got to recognize the journey. And we have to grow and develop ourselves internally as a whole person, especially when we're talking about high school and below. So when I see coaches and stuff now, I don't think about the basketball stuff. I think about how do they talk to the kids? How do they focus on developing the kids? Are they paying attention to the kids' education? Or to make sure they're getting good grades? Or to make sure that they're, behave? And not because they want them to be at the fucking game, but because of who they are as a person. Plain and simple. My daughter and my son, they're going to be good at wherever they do because they are motivated themselves to be good at wherever the fuck they choose to be good at. Plain and simple. My daughter is good at sports, but she loves working out. She loves exercising. She loves being active. That's always been her thing. Now, did I have my kids do that? Yes, I had them do that. But I didn't have to force them either. They wanted to. They were always going to be out running around and stuff doing something. But my son, he wants to be good at basketball. That's what he's going to be good at because he's going to put in the work. He's going to spend hours watching film. He's going to watch NBA players, former NBA players. He's going to watch college basketball. He's going to watch and study and stuff. He's going to go out there and practice. He's going to practice. He's going to practice. He's going to practice. He's going to go out there and play. He's going to play. He's going to continue to practice. He's going to run. He's going to push up, sit up. That's what it's about. But that's coaching. I'm their parent. But guess what a parent is? Fucking coach. Now, I told my kids, I'm like, look, man, I didn't think twice whether or not I'd be able to coach. I just knew I could coach because I'm a parent. I raised my kids. And I was in the military and I had to supervise and tell other grown folks, to do things and help them be motivated. I was like, coaching kids, I knew it was going to be easy. Not necessarily easy. I knew I was well equipped and prepared to handle it. So that wasn't an issue for me. It was something, though, I definitely enjoyed. And I really was and am the coach that I never really had growing up. My dad was working stuff all the time and whatnot. So he'll just say little things here and there to help me keep me motivated and whatnot. And little tips and, teach me the game and whatnot. Like I said, the best coach I ever came across was at a local college here in my city. And I took wherever I learned from him and his coaching staff, and I just kept with it. And then I watched a lot of NBA games, watched a lot of college games. I listened to Coach K, Phil Jackson, all the different coaches, Pat Summerall, so many of them and stuff. And I'll just sit there and listen. I'll just pay attention and stuff. So to me, there's always good coaches around, especially in today's world where we can access all this information whenever we want to. So you can always learn from certain coaches and stuff, whether or not your coach directly that you have a personal experience with is not a good coach. And all it comes down to is, are they capable of helping you develop? That's it. Now, we can have a whole different argument as far as X's and O's and strategies and tactics within the game to help win the game. That comes down to more of a technical expertise thing. But when we talk about high school coaches and high school and below, it's knowing the basics, knowing the fundamentals, and just being a good person and prioritizing the kids, the youth development, and helping them grow as a whole person. That's all it is, man. That's all it is. I'm pretty sure I got a whole bunch of other stuff to say and rant about, but I don't want to make it any longer than I feel like after a while I just start talking in circles and whatnot if I haven't already been doing it, which I probably slightly have. But just what I'm seeing in coaches, it's just not it. And I don't know what we do as a society to get back to that, other than the requirement or emphasize coaches caring about kids. Coaches focusing on child, young adult development. Coaches being concerned about that. Maybe better screening of coaches, but we all know how interviews go. It's like the guy that the athletic director interviewed me. So I get coaches that come here and say they don't care about winning, and then once he starts something different. So, no matter what, you're taking a chance on somebody. And then imagine being fired because and most coaches think they'll get fired because they weren't winning. But what happens when you're getting fired because, no, you weren't actually caring about the kids and coaching? To me, that's even more detrimental. That hurts even more. The fact that you weren't fired because you weren't winning, that you weren't caring about the kids and you weren't focused on the kids. And a lot of coaches, you can see when they want to just coach their kid or whatever and stuff, or favoritism is being shown because some coach knows another parent and their kid is on the team and stuff, and they got this relationship going. You can see all the bias stuff going on and whatnot. My kids see it in their sports and stuff. They can see all the bias and whatnot. And I can see it. And then the kids can see it. The other kids on the team, the parents can see it. And so we all recognize it. We get it. You don't want to necessarily be disrupted and call it out and be like, hey, this is messed up, this and that. Because if I see it happen on my kids' team, Do I want to call it out? Yes. But I am hesitant too, because am I being biased? Also yes. Also yes. But at the same time, I just let it play out because I already know what will happen. Coaches like that, I have never seen last long or have any career in coaching outside of high school. And not even like a big high school. I never really seen them win a district title. I never seen them, win a state championship, none of those things. Not to say that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does. But what comes out of it? What comes with it? Because you can have coaches that will win a lot of stuff. But what impact have they left on players' lives? What have they, done and stuff to a young adult's life in a positive way? But some people just want that. There are schools out there that only focus on emphasize winning and stuff, and focus on, bringing in the best players that they can find in and around the high schools and around the city and stuff. And that's great for them if they want to do that. Me, my goal is to keep my kids far away from that shit. I just want my kids to play the sport that they enjoy and develop as a person. And if they go on to, my daughter doesn't even want to play in college. And I know some coaches would be like, well, why don't you want to play? You're good. She gets letters from college and stuff like that, and she don't even want to play. And I'm proud of her for sticking to that. Because if you don't want to do it, there's nothing wrong with it. You can be successful at something and you can walk the fuck away. But some coaches, some people, some adults, some parents, they're just like, their minds are blown by that. They can't, why would you not do that? Well, it's because when you know that you're capable of being good at wherever you want to be good at, you get to choose what you want to continue to do with your life. Sometimes coaches will be like, oh, you're good at this, you got to do it. And it's like, why? Because you think I'm good and I'll have success at it? But you don't know me. I'm good at other shit too. You just don't know about that. Because coaches don't know their players. They're not getting to know these kids, these young adults. There's coaches that get mad if you play. The thing is now coaches get mad if you play another sport. When before it used to be, the coaches would want you to play another sport. Just something to keep you active or whatever. But now it's like they want you to commit to one sport year round. The funny thing is, it's not even healthy for your body, especially as young adults, kids, because it's kids then because you're not even a full grown adult body yet. For the most part, for most of these kids. So you keep training the same thing. Like I told my son, like he plays basketball, he only plays basketball. But I told him like, hey, I want you to go back out for track next year now that the school has a track coach or a sprinting coach. And so I was like, run a 100, run a 200, something like that. Or do the high jump, something, do something because it'll give you a chance to just get away from basketball and just do something different, but still stay active. And I also don't want him to just be focused on that one sport and they're like, oh, you got to play this. Kids are now playing fucking one sport year round where they have this high school season and then they have their travel ball season. Doing the same fucking sport. Same fucking thing. You don't think these kids get burnt out? The NBA players that y'all look at and be like, man, it looks like they don't care. They don't want to be here. They didn't want to be there since they were fucking kids. They just kept going along because someone around them keeps telling them to go. Because everybody around them is also mooching off of them. The high school coach is getting a paycheck or something like that for having them at the school, whatever. The college coach is getting something. The boosters club is getting something. Everybody's betting on the games, betting on the kid to make it so they get to the pros. Everybody betting on them. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I coached him or I was part of him and stuff, and using, building their careers and their lifestyle off of another kid's back. Child exploitation. But I'll leave that for a whole nother episode. I said enough. I just had to get it off my chest. I'm out.
Life's a gamble, I roll dice. Bet against me, I roll twice. I done beat the odds my whole life. I said I'm ready for greatness.
Talking shit, dang.